Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kai's Corner. Today, we're going to be talking about the worst team in the major leagues so far this year, and potentially one of the worst teams of all time, the Colorado Rockies. Yes, you heard me right. The Colorado Rockies are the worst team in Major League Baseball, and it is not even close. If you're a baseball fan, I'm sure you remember the 2024 season that the Chicago White Sox had after going 41-121, which was the worst record in the modern league era. The Colorado Rockies are at 13 wins through the first 70 games of the season, and at this point in time on June 13th, which is when I'm recording this video, the Chicago White Sox were at 18 wins. The Rockies just picked up their 13th after a walk-off two-run single by Orlando Arcia, who was DFA'd earlier this year by the Atlanta Braves. Regardless or not of Orlando Arcia being DFA'd earlier this year, the Colorado Rockies have had major problems as an organization as a whole, and the one that always stands out to me is being able to lock down their all-star caliber players, and one of those players that comes to mind is none other than DJ LeMahieu. DJ LeMahieu would start his career in 2011 after having a very forgettable rookie year with the Chicago Cubs. Yet, regardless of all of that, in 2012, the Colorado Rockies would take a chance on the young second baseman, where he would grow to be one of the best second basemen during the 2010s. DJ LeMahieu would win 2 All-Star appearances with the club back in 2015 and 2017, where he would also go on to win 3 Gold Gloves with the Rockies in 2014, 2017, and 2018. Yet, despite all of this, the Rockies would let him walk during the 2018 season, and the New York Yankees would acquire him in 2019 for a multi-year deal, where he would later grow on to be a great second baseman, better than he already was, winning 2 Silver Sluggers, another Gold Glove, and also appearing in another All-Star game. Another player that I think about when we say the Rockies can't lock down a star player is none other than one of the best, if not the best, defensive third baseman of all time, who has won 10 Gold Gloves, is an 8-time All-Star, and has a few Silver Sluggers to go along with his career, Nolan Arenado. Arenado would start his career in 2013 with the Rockies, immediately proving to the world that he was a phenom. From 2013 all the way till the end of the 2020 season, Arenado would stay as a Rocky, winning 10 consecutive Gold Gloves from 2013 to 2022, which was unfortunately ended by Ke'Bryan Hayes back during the 2023 season. However, Nolan Arenado signed an 8-year deal back in 2019 with the Colorado Rockies, and after a few things that got reconstructed, would have an opt-out clause in 2021 with a no-trade clause. In 2021, however, Nolan Arenado decided to opt out and was immediately signed by none other than the St. Louis Cardinals, where he would go on to win a few more Gold Gloves and make a few more All-Star appearances. Yet, regardless of all of this, Nolan Arenado would reflect on the Rockies and what they said to him when they were trying to get the deal done. Nolan Arenado said that the Rockies were promising to start building a World Series caliber team to finally win a World Series that has eluded the franchise ever since they were built in 1993. However, Nolan Arenado quickly realized that the team was not interested in rebuilding, and they were trying to rely on a lot of the younger guys in the farm system. Arenado, seeing all of this and realizing that the team wasn't going to go to the World Series, he wanted to win at least one ring in his career and decided to help out a team that was in the middle of a rebuild, and that was none other than the St. Louis Cardinals. After Arenado had left, the Rockies were left with no face of the franchise and were shortly deemed one of the worst teams in baseball, and this year have proven that point to a T. Another player on this list, and the last player I'll talk about, is none other than the 2-time Silver Slugger and 2-time All-Star that the Rockies weren't able to lock down, Trevor Story. Trevor Story immediately burst on the scene in 2016, proving to the world that he was a great shortstop and that everybody needed to have their eyes on him and Nolan Arenado after the Rockies built a great left side of the infield and one of the best ones in the National League West and one of the best ones at the time in the entire league. However, Trevor Story would play for the Rockies for another 5 years, ending his career in 2021, where he would eventually become a free agent and later picked up by the Boston Red Sox. However, since then, Story hasn't really lived up to the hype. Even though he is 32, I do think Story is in the downward spiral of his career. I do think there's a chance he bounces back, but Story has just not been the same guy that he was with the Rockies. Unfortunately, I do think the Rockies caught a break with Story, but who knows how good he could have been if he would have just stayed with the team and continued to build there. I do think that the Rockies lost out on a great player, and I do think they got some good years out of one of the best shortstops in the 2010s. However, I do think that it was a huge miss on letting him go. I think he still could have been the face of the franchise, and there could have been huge things to come from Story if he would have just stayed in Colorado. I know a lot of these players are recent for the Colorado Rockies. However, losing star players during the 2000s was a huge blow, and especially entering the 2021 season, there was almost no one left to start bringing in revenue for the Rockies. So, with this, the front office had a huge question mark on their mind, and it was going to be who the next star is going to be in Colorado. So, they decided to turn their attention to the former Giant and former Chicago Cub and former Rookie of the Year, Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant would sign a 7-year, $180 million deal with the Colorado Rockies, and ever since then, he has been a complete bust. This has been one of the worst contracts we've seen in the modern league era, and definitely rivals one like Anthony Rendon's, and maybe even some people will say Robinson Cano's contract. It's just been terrible for the Rockies ever since they've signed Kris Bryant, who has basically had the injury bug ever since he got there, and is currently on the IL right now. Colorado Rocky third baseman Kris Bryant just has not performed at a high level and has definitely lost his spark ever since he entered the league back in 2016. The Colorado Rockies have a few more problems that they definitely need to address, but I do think the Kris Bryant one has been one of the biggest. Regardless of the Rockies not being able to lock down their star players previous years, and regardless of them signing one of the worst contracts as a franchise, let's take a look at their 2025 team stats. Now, let's start with the offense. They are dead last in runs scored. They are 28th in team OPS, 29th in team batting average with a .223. They are also 27th in total bases and are 25th in home runs with just 59. To me, it's unsurprising that the Rockies aren't dead last in home runs because of Coors Field. And for anybody who doesn't know, Coors Field is the highest elevated stadium in all of Major League Baseball. For reference, the second highest team with a stadium above sea level that is elevated is the Arizona Diamondbacks with 1,200 feet of stadium elevation. The Rockies are first with 5,200 feet of elevation, which is 4,000 more than the team in second. Now, because of this, it is also a reason as to why Coors Field is considered the ballpark where pitchers go to die. Now, if we look at their pitching, we can see. Now, if we take a look at the Rockies pitching, they are 30th in runs allowed. They are 30th in opponent OPS. They are 30th in opponent batting average with a .293. They are 29th in total bases allowed and are 29th in errors, meaning this Rockies defense is almost dead last in errors per game. This is one of the biggest reasons to me as to why the Rockies have been failing has been because of their pitching, especially in the bullpen, where in the series against the Giants, we saw the Rockies give up more than 5 runs in the final 2 innings, which helped propel the Giants to win the first 2 games of the series against the Rockies. We saw the Giants mount a 4-run inning comeback in the 9th inning during their first game of the series just 2 days ago. Then we saw the Rockies blow it again where they gave up about 5 runs in the 8th inning, and then in the 9th inning they gave up, I think it was 3 more, which is another reason as to why the Rockies keep losing is because their bullpen and their starting pitching just has not been it, especially with them having to rely on players like German Marquez, who was supposed to be the next best pitcher there, and he just hasn't been. However, Kyle Freeland actually hasn't been that bad of a pitcher, so I guess a little bit more credit to him. But regardless or not, you cannot be relying on those 2 guys to lead your starting pitching core. So, to me, that's been one of the biggest reasons as to why the Rockies have been failing this year, but also their offense just has not been it. Their best player, hitting-wise, has been Hunter Goodman, which is their star catcher, who's actually been performing pretty well at Coors Field, has a few homers on the year, pretty good RBI totals, and actually has a batting average above the .280 threshold. So props to Hunter Goodman for actually being able to hit the ball at Coors. Apparently no one else can, but this to me has been one of the biggest reasons as to why the Rockies have been losing games has been because of their terrible pitching. Now, after learning a little bit more about the Rockies, I think it's important that we take a look at the top 5 teams with the worst record in Major League history. Taking a look at some of these squads, we can go back all the way to 1899 looking at the Cleveland Spiders, who hold the record for the most amount of losses in a season with 134 after winning just 20 games. Yes, this is a little bit prior to the 162-game season that we have now. However, I do think that the Cleveland Spiders maybe would have won at least 1 or 2 more games, and I do think the Rockies will at least win more than 20 games this season, but who knows? It's taken them a while to even hit 13, but I do think the Rockies are on pace for a historically bad season. The next team up is the 1916 Philadelphia A's, who went 36-117. The Boston Braves back in 1935, who won 38 games and lost 115. And the New York Mets, who went 40-120. And then the 1904 Washington Senators, who went 38-113. I do think it's possible for the Rockies to break that 20-win threshold. I don't think they'll have the worst season in Major League history, but they are on pace to potentially lose less than 20 games this year. I do think it's possible. I know the Rockies aren't trying to go for the record, but I could see it happening. And personally, if it does happen, I think that there is going to be an outrage in Colorado. Yet, the Philadelphia A's being in second with just 36 wins, I see the Rockies not even cracking 30. I think that this is a team that is on pace for a historically bad year, and I do think that it is possible for the Rockies to wind up having the second worst record in Major League history. And today, that will conclude Kai's Corner and as to why the Rockies are on pace to be one of the worst teams in Major League history. Thank you guys again so much for watching Kai's Corner. I'm so thankful to be providing content for you guys. This is only my second video, so I hope you guys are excited for more. My next one should be Monday. I'll try to have it posted up by around noon, so I can just kind of let everybody enjoy it for the rest of their Mondays. So yeah, thank you guys again so much for tuning in. If you like my content, please go like and subscribe below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Choo!